This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Well, it's official. UAW workers at GM, Ford, and Stellantis voted in favor of their new labor contracts. But here's the interesting thing. 1/3 of UAW workers did not even vote on the contract. In fact, nearly half of all UAW workers at Ford did not bother to vote. At Stellantis, nearly 39% of workers sat out the vote, and at GM, it was about 26%. That says to us the support for the contract could be stronger than the final votes even suggest, because we only imagine that if people didn't bother to vote, they're happy enough with the contract that the union negotiated. Even though the voting is over, we're still seeing the ripple effect of the union's new labor contracts. Subaru told Reuters it will raise wages for workers at its plant in Lafayette, Indiana, but it hasn't decided by how much yet. So far, Toyota, Honda, and Hyundai have announced they will raise their wages. UAW President Shawn Fain says he's now going to try and organize the transplants and EV startups so the non-union automakers will want to raise wages to try and keep the union out. Another development that could be strike-related is that General Motors is going to bring Brightdrop into the corporate fold and will no longer let it operate as a separate subsidiary. Travis Katz, the CEO who was running Brightdrop, is going to leave the company, and all of Brightdrop's software and service development will also be integrated into existing GM operations. Maybe General Motors was already contemplating this move, but it needs to find ways to cut costs to offset the higher price of its new labor contract. And bringing Brightdrop in-house is definitely a cost-cutting move. Of course, you can't cost-cut your way to prosperity. You have to grow the top line too. And GM announced it's going to start selling Cadillac Lyrics in Australia and New Zealand as 2025 models, which suggests they could go on sale there next year. It will also start selling the Lyric in Sweden, Switzerland, and France in the first half of next year. The Lyric was designed from the outset to accommodate right-hand steering, so it should not be an expensive conversion, and that opens up other right-hand steering markets like the UK, Japan, and India. But GM did not say if the Lyrics for those markets will be built in the US or in China. Earlier this morning, it unveiled a new rear-drive version of the Lyric for the Chinese market. Up until now, it had only sold all-wheel drive versions there. The rear-drive one starts at $41,275, which is about $10,000 less than the all-wheel drive version. Cadillac also teased the Optic, a smaller crossover that will be priced even lower, and it showed two other EVs under wraps that will be launched in China by the end of this year, which means we'll see a couple of other reveals in just a few weeks. EV startup Lucid Motors revealed its first SUV, the Gravity. It shares similar front-end styling to the Air sedan, and the rear clamshell liftgate mirrors the Air's trunk lid, but it also offers 3 rows of seating. The Gravity will feature a newer version of Lucid's 900-volt electrical architecture, which will allow it to add up to 200 miles of range in about 15 minutes of charging. Overall, it will have more than 440 miles or 708 kilometers of range. Lucid was already known for having a compact but powerful electric motor, and it says the SUV will get an even newer version of it, which will help it go from 0 to 60 in under 3.5 seconds and tow up to 6,000 pounds. The interior is similar to the Air as well, but there's some different treatments on the dash and doors, and the center screen is set higher and floating, rather than more integrated into the center console. Lucid hints that the Gravity might have a different battery pack. The one in the Air ranges from 88 to 118 kilowatt hours, but it says the Gravity will set new standards for SUVs with a smaller, lighter, more sustainable battery pack that is a little more than half the size of some of our battery-hungry competitors. Pricing will start at under $80,000, but sales won't kick off until the end of next year. Lucid sales have been tapering off, so a new model is going to inject some excitement into the company, but it will also be under more pressure to scale up production. The big thing Lucid has going for it that not too many EV startups have is billion-dollar backers in the Saudi investment fund. Automakers keep making steps that are getting us closer to autonomous driving. Honda will offer hands-free driving next year. It's coming out with a new version of its safety technology called Honda Sensing 360 Plus that adds a driver monitoring system and high-definition maps. These new features make it so the system now supports hands-free driving on the highway and lane changes as long as the driver uses the turn signal. The new Accord is the first model to get Honda Sensing 360 Plus, and China will be the first market where it's available, which will be sometime next year. After that, it goes global. Hyundai dealers can sell vehicles online through Amazon's US stores starting next year. Buyers can search for vehicles, pick the model, trim, color, and features they want, and choose payment and finance options through Amazon's online checkout. They can then pick it up or have it delivered to their local dealer. Hyundai will use Amazon's AWS as its cloud provider to help with the automaker's digital transformation for operations, production, and customer service. And Hyundai will also integrate Amazon's Alexa voice assistant into vehicles starting in 2025. Solid-state batteries could be a game changer for electric vehicles, and Chinese automaker GAC announced that it plans to equip its EVs with fully solid-state batteries in 2026. The batteries have an energy density of 400 watt-hours per kilogram, which compares to about 300 for most of today's batteries. And the company says it will meet safety and reliability standards. That's about all the details we have, but it looks like GAC could be the first automaker to sell EVs with full solid-state batteries. Toyota, Honda, and Nissan are also developing them and are aiming to bring them to market by the end of the decade. You know, I never realized how tight you have to torque down Centerlock wheels. BMW is offering quick change Centerlock wheels for versions of the M2, M3, and M4, which replaces the wheel studs and/or lugs with one central screw. But it says that screw has to be bolted down to 930 Newton meters or 685 pound-feet of torque. I came from a world of working on cars and trucks, but most vehicle lug nuts are torqued down to about 100 pound-feet. And while some full-size trucks would be around 150 pound-feet or a little more. I was just very shocked to see that number. And like any good set of aftermarket wheels, these are not that cheap, with a price tag of over 12,000 euros. But that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that you have a great weekend.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering, boost your game. Borg Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world. Schaeffler, we pioneer motion. And by Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
At Teijin Automotive Technologies, we combine world-class composite materials expertise with cutting-edge designs because, frankly, there are better ways to lightweight vehicles. So lighten up with Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
We want to know what drives your testing. OTA, connected car, diagnostics, remote testing. Intrepid Control Systems is here to help you work from anywhere. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
At Schaeffler, we pioneer motion.
Electrifying mobility, manufacturing smarter, reducing CO2 emissions, making energy production clean. Schaeffler pioneers motion to advance how the world moves.
Wards is the industry leader for news, data, and analysis. That's why companies across the globe subscribe to our premium service, maybe even your own. Log in for subscriber access now. Check your company's intranet for details and rely on wardsauto.com to keep you informed.